The cold void of space was eerily silent as the remnants of humanity's fleet drifted in the shadow of Jupiter. The war had spanned decades, bleeding the last hope from those who dared to resist the Dominion's iron grip. But now, with the final battle on the horizon, there was no room for fear, only resolve. Admiral Elias Voss stood on the bridge of the Resolute, gazing at the tactical map before him. His face was lined with scars, both physical and emotional, etched by years of war. The Dominion's armada, a seemingly endless tide of warships, was approaching from the outer system. If they broke through here, Earth would fall. "We have one shot," Voss muttered under his breath. Commander Sienna Lorne, his most trusted officer, stepped up beside him. "The fleet is assembled, but we're outnumbered 5-1. If we're going to make a stand, we need something more than brute force." Voss turned to her, a grim smile playing on his lips. "That's why we're not just fighting a battle, Sienna. We're setting a trap." The final plan. Deep within the Resolute's war room, the remaining high-ranking officers gathered. A holographic projection of the solar system flickered above the circular table, displaying the Dominion's movements. "Captain Drax, status on the disruption field?" Voss asked, turning to the grizzled pilot and tactician. Drax leaned forward, tapping a control panel. "The EMP mines are set along the asteroid belt. Once the Dominion moves in, we trigger the pulse, frying half their systems. It won't stop them, but it'll buy us time." Price, the fleet's chief strategist, crossed his arms. "That still leaves hundreds of ships operational. We'll be crushed in a head-on fight." Voss nodded. "Which is why we're taking the fight to them. Sienna, you'll lead the Spectre Squadron in a deep flank maneuver. When the EMP pulse hits, take out their command ships." Sienna smirked. "A suicide mission. Just how I like it." "Not suicide," Voss corrected. "A necessity." The room fell silent. Every officer knew the stakes. If they failed, there would be no second chance. The enemy arrives. Hours later, the Dominion fleet emerged from the darkness, their ships cutting to the void like blades. The Resolute trembled as warning klaxons blared. The battle had begun. Voss gripped the railing as the first wave of Dominion warships opened fire. Plasma bolts streaked through space, slamming into fleet's front lines. Explosions blossomed in the distance as several Resistance cruisers were torn apart. "Hold formation!" Voss barked. "Wait for my signal." The Dominion pressed forward, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They didn't see the trap closing in around them. Drax's voice crackled over the comms. "They're in position. Triggering EMP pulse now." A shockwave rippled through space as the hidden mines detonated. The Dominion ships flickered, their systems faltering, their weapons silenced. Chaos erupted in their ranks. "Now!" Voss roared. "All ships attack." The fleet surged forward, launching a brutal counteroffensive. Sienna's squadron swooped in from the flank, picking off disabled warships with pinpoint strikes. The once invincible Dominion armada was suddenly vulnerable, a desperate gamble. But victory was far from certain. As the Dominion fleet scrambled to recover, their command ship Judicator powered up a planet-shattering weapon. Voss' heart pounded. "If that cannon fires, Earth is gone." Sienna's voice crackled through the intercom. "I can disable it, but I'll need cover." Voss hesitated. Sending more ships would weaken their front line. But if they didn't stop the Judicator now, nothing else would matter. "Drax, cover her," Voss commanded. "Sienna, do what you have to." As Sienna's squadron broke through enemy lines, the fate of humanity rested on a razor's edge. The battle had erupted into a maelstrom of destruction, fire and debris littering the void. Admiral Elias Voss stood firm on the bridge of the Resolute, eyes locked on the tactical display. The Dominion fleet, though staggered by the EMP strike, was rapidly regaining control. Their command ship Judicator was preparing to fire its doomsday weapon. Sienna's status? Voss barked into his communicator. Static crackled before Sienna Lorne's voice cut through. "We've breached their outer defenses, but the Judicator's core is heavily shielded. I need more time." Time was the one thing they didn't have. Price, standing at the strategy console, spoke urgently. Admiral, their systems are recovering faster than expected. We're losing ships fast. If we don't break their formation now, we'll be overwhelmed. Voss clenched his jaw. The fleet was barely holding together. He turned to Drax, who was maneuvering the Spectre through a swarm of Dominion fighters. Drax, cut a path for Sienna. She needs to reach that core. On it, boss, Drax grunted, his hands flying over controls. The Spectre banked sharply, weaving through enemy fire as it unloaded a barrage of missiles at the Dominion blockade. Explosions rippled through their ranks, creating a temporary gap. Sienna, go! Voss commanded. Sabotage in the heart of the beast. Sienna and her strike team darted through the corridors of the Judicator, weapons raised. The Dominion's elite soldiers, the Black Guard, were already moving to intercept them. We need to get to the reactor chamber, Price panted. That's the only way to shut this thing down permanently. The hallways echoed with the sound of approaching boots. The Black Guard was closing in. Take cover. Sienna shouted, diving behind a support beam as plasma fire rained down. The team returned fire, lighting up the corridor with streaks of energy. One by one, the Dominion soldiers fell, but reinforcements were flooding in. We're running out of time, Price yelled. Sienna spotted an emergency maintenance hatch overhead. Up there. It might get us around their defenses. Drax's voice crackled through the comms. You better hurry. The Dominion is locking weapons on a Resolute. Voss heard this from the bridge. We need to buy them time. Helm, divert power to forward shields. All batteries. Fire at will. The Resolute surged forward, unleashing a relentless barrage. It was a suicide maneuver, but it was their only chance. The breaking point. Sienna's team dropped into the reactor chamber, an enormous space filled with pulsating energy conduits. The main core thrummed with raw power, its containment field glowing ominously. Set the charges, Sienna ordered. As the team moved, alarms blared. A deep, menacing voice filled the chamber. You think you can stop us? A massive armored figure stepped forward. High Commander Vale, the Dominion's enforcer. His red cape billowed as he drew his energy blade. I was hoping for a fight, Sienna smirked. The final battle. The clash of energy blades illuminated the reactor chamber, casting erratic shadows across the metallic walls. Sienna Lorne lunged, her blade crackling as it met High Commander Vale's, and a violent arc sparks flew as their weapons clashed, the hum of their deadly energy vibrating through the air. Vale smirked beneath his imposing helmet. You're resilient, I'll give you that, but your rebellion dies here. Sienna gritted her teeth, sidestepping his downward slash. Not if I have anything to say about it. Behind her, Price worked feverishly on setting the explosive charges against the core stabilizers. The seconds felt like an eternity as he primed the detonators. The mission depended on them crippling the Judicator before it could wipe out the Resistance fleet. Sienna, we're running out of time. Price called out. I know, she shot back, ducking as Vale's blade slashed inches from her face. Fire in the void. Outside, the battle had intensified. The Resolute had taken heavy damage, its shields flickering under the relentless assault from Dominion warships. Admiral Voss gripped the railing of the command station, watching as his fleet was slowly pushed back. Drax, we need another maneuver. The Dominion is pressing too hard, he barked into the comms. Drax, piloting the Spectre, weaved through enemy formations, his ship rolling through chaotic laser fire. Got a crazy idea, Admiral. We jump into their formation, point blank. Take out their lead destroyers from the inside. Voss clenched his fists. That's suicide. Drax chuckled darkly. Only if we miss. With a sharp turn, the Spectre darted toward the Dominion front lines. Its cannons blazed as it tore through enemy ranks, sowing confusion and giving the Resistance fleet a sliver of breathing room. The breaking chains. Back in the reactor chamber, Sienna saw her opening. She ducked under Vale's blade and drove her weapon into his side. The High Commander staggered, but instead of falling, he grasped the blade and wrenched it free, his armor sealing the wound almost instantly. Foolish, he sneered. You cannot win. But Sienna wasn't aiming to kill. She was aiming to delay. Charges set. Price yelled. yanking Sienna back. The countdown was already ticking, 30 seconds. Vale's eyes widened. No! Sienna and her team bolted for the escape route as the alarm screamed. The reactor chamber shuddered as the explosives detonated, engulfing the core in a fiery eruption. The Judicator began to tremble. The escape and the collapse. Sienna barely made it to the extraction point before the shock wave threw her forward. The Spectre swooped in, its ramp open. Drax was yelling something, but the sound was drowned out by the implosion of the Judicator. Voss watched from the Resolute as the Dominion's flagship burst apart in a magnificent explosion. The remaining Dominion forces, leaderless and in disarray, began to retreat. "We did it," Voss whispered. "We actually did it." Sienna collapsed onto Spectre's floor, breathing heavily. They had won, but the war wasn't over yet. The wreckage of the Judicator still burned in the void, a smoldering reminder of the battle they had just won. But there was no time for celebration. The Dominion fleet was in retreat, but not defeated, and Admiral Elias Voss knew that a cornered enemy was the most dangerous kind. Damage report? Voss barked as he paced the Resolute's bridge. Commander Price wiped soot from his brow, his face weary. "We lost nearly a third of our fleet. The Spectre barely made it out, and the Resolute is holding together by a thread. But we crippled them, sir." Voss exhaled sharply. "Not enough. We need to finish this." A fragile respite. On the Spectre, Sienna Loren sat on the edge of a makeshift cot, wrapping a bandage around her forearm. She winced as Drax sat across from her, his own injuries barely treated. "We should be celebrating, right?" Drax muttered, "Took out their biggest ship. The Dominion is running." Sienna shook her head. "They're not beaten. Not yet." She glanced at the star charts flickering on a hollow screen nearby. The Dominion's fallback position was still unknown, but Sienna had a gut feeling they were regrouping for something worse. Just then, Price's voice came through comms. "Sienna, Voss needs you on the bridge. Now." A dark revelation. "We intercepted a transmission," Voss said the moment Sienna arrived. He gestured toward the hollow display, where static-filled Dominion chatter played on loop. One word stood out amidst the distortion: exterminus. Sienna felt a chill crawl up her spine. What the hell is exterminus? Price worked furiously at the console. Best guess? A final contingency plan. Something big, and something that wasn't on any of our intelligence reports. Drax scoffed. "Why do the bad guys always have a doomsday plan?" "Because they know they're losing," Voss muttered. "Sienna, we need answers, and we need them fast." Hunting the truth. Their only lead was a Dominion warship that had been disabled in the battle. The remnant was adrift, its systems barely functional. But if anyone knew what exterminus was, it would be inside that ship. Sienna led a strike team aboard the derelict vessel. The air was thick with smoke. Sparks rained from ruptured power lines, and the occasional flickering light cast eerie shadows along the corridors. "Stay sharp," she whispered, weapon raised. They moved deeper into the ship, stepping over the bodies of fallen Dominion soldiers. The main command console was still intact, though barely operational. Price set to work, bypassing security locks. Come on," he muttered. A sudden noise behind him made Sienna spin. Gun aimed. A lone survivor, barely clinging to life, was slumped against the wall. His Dominion uniform was torn, his breathing ragged. Exterminus. He rasped. "It's already begun." Sienna grabbed him by the collar. "What is it? Where?" The soldier coughed, blood on his lips. "Sanctuary Prime. They're going to burn it all." Then he went limp. Price's screen lit up with coordinates. His eyes widened. "Oh, hell. Admiral, we got a problem." The moment the word Sanctuary Prime left Price's lips, the bridge of the Resolute fell silent. Every officer, every crew member knew what that meant. The last refuge of humanity, the hidden bastion where civilians, scholars, and the remnants of the United Resistance had gathered, was about to be annihilated. Admiral Voss didn't hesitate. Set a course. Maximum speed. We stop them or we die trying. The ship's engines roared to life, and in the blink of an eye, the Resolute Spectre and what remained of their fleet launched toward what could be their final battle. The race against time. Sienna sat in the war room, staring at the flickering hollow map of Sanctuary Prime. If the Dominion reaches a planet first, we won't stand a chance. Drax, adjusting the strap of his combat vest, leaned in. So what's the play? We can't fight them ship to ship. They outnumber us. Price smirked. We don't fight them head-on. We strike from the inside. Voss nodded. We have one shot at this. Price, Sienna, Drax, you're leading an infiltration team. You get on that flagship and take out their command center. If they lose leadership, their forces crumble. Sienna's heart pounded. And what about the rest of the fleet? Voss placed a hand on her shoulder. We'll hold the line, no matter the cost. Boarding the Behemoth, the Dominion's flagship, Oblivion's Wrath, loomed ahead like a floating fortress of death. Its escort fleet swarmed around it, launching devastating plasma fire at the approaching Resistance ships. The Spectre weaved through the chaos, avoiding explosions as best it could. Sienna clutched the side of the dropship, feeling the vibrations of battle all around her. "Brace yourselves," the pilot shouted. "This is going to be rough." A deafening boom shook the dropship as they smashed into the Oblivion's Wrath's docking bay. Metal screeched, flames erupted, and alarms wailed. Sienna led the charge, blasters firing. Dominion soldiers rushed to intercept, but the Resistance fighters fought with desperation. Grenades detonated, sending enemy troops flying. Drax's heavy rifle tore through their ranks, and Price hacked into the security doors. "We're in." Price yelled, "Move!" The heart of the enemy, navigating through the warship's corridors, was like running through hell. Red warning lights bathed everything in an eerie glow, and Dominion reinforcements poured in from every side. The Resistance team pushed forward, step by bloody step, until they reached the central command hub. Inside, Grand Marshal Calvero stood waiting. "You're too late," he said coldly. "Sanctuary Prime is doomed." Sienna raised her weapon. "Not if we stop you." Vero smirked, activating a holographic display. A countdown timer appeared. 5 minutes until Exterminus activated. Drax opened fire, but Vero's dodged, drawing an energy blade. He lunged at Sienna, and their weapons clashed in a dance of sparks and steel. Price frantically worked to disable the countdown as chaos erupted in the room. Vero's was fast, inhumanly fast. His blade sliced through Sienna's armor, drawing blood. But she gritted her teeth and fought on, countering his every move. "You fight well," Vero sneered, "but not well enough." He raised his blade for a killing strike, but Drax tackled him from behind, slamming him into the console. "Shut it down!" Sienna screamed. Price's fingers flew across the controls. "Almost there, just got it." The countdown froze at 5 seconds. Vero's let out a roar of rage. He grabbed a detonator from his belt. "If I fall, you all fall with me." Before he could press it, Sienna fired. The blast struck him square in the chest, sending him crashing into the control panel. Sparks exploded, and he slumped over, unmoving. The aftermath. The Resistance fleet, battered but victorious, watched as the Dominion forces scattered. Leaderless and in disarray, they fled the battlefield. The war was over. On Sanctuary Prime, the surviving soldiers and civilians celebrated, but the cost had been immense. The Resistance had won, but the scars of war would never fade. Admiral Voss stood beside Sienna as the sun rose over the planet. "It's over." She nodded, exhausted but relieved. "For now." Drax smirked. "Let's just hope the next war doesn't come too soon." Price chuckled. "Yeah, but if it does, we'll be ready." As the light of a new day bathed Sanctuary Prime, the Resistance stood together, knowing that their fight had ushered in a new era of hope.